Hey there, sports fans. It is Christmas week. An
Yay.
incredible time of year. As someone has said, it's the most wonderful
Ah,
time of the
it
year.
was Kermit the Frog. That's right. That's right. Oh, wait.
I,
No.
I, I paused there, Darren. I thought you were going to take it away. Like, take it away, Darren.
I could just hear Kermit singing in my head. It kind of distracted me a little bit. Yeah.
There's a lot of football around Christmas. Evidently, Santa is a football fan.
That's right. Santa is definitely, he's giving us gifts, and he says to us, if you can hear it, ah. I didn't want to play too much. Get our first YouTube strike because of a Santa hat. That'd be great.
Uh, that's great. I love that hat. Wonderful.
It's a fun hat.
This is a fun time of year.
That's right.
It's a great time of year. There's so
Yep.
much going on, so much to do, and
Absolutely.
I hope that you listeners, your Christmas season is blessed, and you have
Absolutely.
surrounded by family and friends. And presents are nice, Darren, but
Mhm.
man, this season is just so much bigger than what you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just so many special things about it. Even getting down to the reason we celebrate, the joy that we have celebrating the gift that we were all given in the birth of Jesus, and then being able to do that with family. It's just so incredible.
Yeah, well said. Well said. When you think about some of your favorite Christmas things, Darren, is there a movie that you watch every year, regardless of how busy you are? You're going to watch this movie.
There is a without fail, and I wish there's part of me that wishes I could say it was some serious, sentimental Christmas, but it's Christmas Vacation. It is a non-negotiable. That has to be. Matter of fact, probably about mid-November, that starts getting in the rotation. We probably, by the time we hit Christmas, we've probably watched it 6, 8 times, and I don't care how many times I watch it. When he opens the attic and the steps come out or that ladder comes out and hits him square in the floor, I could watch it back to back and still have like hurting cheeks after that scene. So it happens every time without fail. But that's definitely one of our family tradition go tos. How about you? You got a
Wow, it's hard to top that one. That's just a standard. You're going to
oh
watch
yeah,
it at some point.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll go on the other side of things. There's some great comedies. We end
Hmm.
up watching a lot of different Christmas movies, but one that my wife and I we always watch together is "It's a Wonderful Life."
Oh, great.
And you talk about the scene in Christmas Vacation, the newel post where he just chopped. That's a beautiful nod to "It's a
Yeah,
Wonderful Life,"
yeah, yeah.
and I don't know if it's about getting older, but the more we watch It's a Wonderful Life, the more it resonates. It's just such a beautiful reminder of what ultimately matters in life. No man
Absolutely.
is a failure who has friends, is what Clarence the angel inscribes on the Tom Sawyer book that he gives to George Bailey. So
That's
that's just a classic standby
yep.
for us.
Absolutely. That's a great one. That's a great one.
And I mentioned earlier, it's Christmas is about way more than presents, but for those of us college football fans, our teams, we're watching what they're getting now in this transfer portal.
Absolutely.
And down here in Louisiana, I like what I see so far. The pressure is going to be on Brian Kelly to mold these guys
Yeah.
together and produce a winner because the expectations are going to be off the charts. But it's been crazy. I think every team. I'm sure Vanderbilt's the same way.
Absolutely.
They've lost players. They've brought in players. It's just this is something new that we're all trying to process this
Yeah.
new era of college football.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're really excited. I think it creates such an upheaval in us from a fan perspective because when your team picks up somebody, Vanderbilt picking up an Alabama linebacker, stuff like that, there's some excitement. You can't believe that just happened. But then when your team loses somebody that otherwise they would not have lost, that's so frustrating. It really makes you kind of run the gamut of emotions because it's like, well, I don't even like the portal now. Why did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. One minute you love it, the next minute you hate it.
Yep, absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
well, let's jump in with some news observations, if you will. And one big one is we talked a little bit about last week, but we were so excited to watch these playoffs,
Oh yeah,
and we got basically, would you say, four duds? I mean, Texas, Clemson was competitive for a while,
yeah, yeah. I
but
mean, Texas, honestly, as I heard somebody say on another podcast, Texas decided to play with their food for a minute and let it get interesting. But at the end of the day, we knew what that game was going to be about. But goodness gracious, that Tennessee Ohio State game, you talking about a dud. I
mhm,
mean, no matter what the two teams were, if you would have told me this time a month ago that when the first round of the playoffs come in, or start, the primetime headline, what they put in the spot is going to be a game that I don't even finish. I didn't even get through the fourth quarter because I would have absolutely not believed a statement like that. But that's the kind of game we ended up getting with that Ohio State Tennessee game.
yeah, and that leads me to my first who's getting the naughty coal in the stocking this year, and I got to give the naughty to Tennessee. That
Yeah.
we've talked all year about the elite defense of Tennessee,
Yep. Absolutely.
and Ohio State. Just Will
Mhm.
Howard, you what a great game! Ohio
Yep.
State dominated Tennessee in every facet of the game. I wasn't expecting that.
No.
And so, but a final score 42-17, and then the tail of the tape, Tennessee barely over 100 yards passing, 152 yards rushing. Of course, Dylan Sampson was limited,
Yeah.
but
That hurt.
they allowed 463 yards.
Yeah.
I sat there and I looked at my wife and I said, how did Ohio State lose to Michigan?
Yep. Oh yeah, that's exactly right. That's a great point. You had to at any point at several times during the process of the game, you had to be sitting there going, "What? They lost to who?" Yeah, because I mean there was nothing, and I guess there's something to be said. Having the end of a game where flags are planted and your teams are being sprayed with mace, and 3 weeks of that anger building up. Maybe there's something there's something to be said for that because it sure came out in a pretty ugly way from a Tennessee perspective. Yeah, that's 50%. Like they didn't even average 300 yards a game allowed for the entire SEC schedule. They didn't allow 300 yards a game. They were, it was like 296 or something like that on average of what this Tennessee defense allowed during or for a game, and to allow over 450, just absolutely mind blowing. So, yeah, Tennessee defense. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You are definitely on the naughty list.
Absolutely, because here's the frustrating thing. We watched Indiana and Notre Dame and
Mhm.
thought there's no way Indiana should have been in the playoffs. Probably
Right.
the worst selection ever in whatever
Yep.
iteration of the playoff scenario we've had over the years.
Mhm.
The worst team to ever be chosen. Now, the score didn't look like they got
No,
Notre Dame dominated
they
them.
absolutely did.
And so we're on our high horse. Indiana did not belong there. Then we watched SMU and Penn State, and we're like, SMU did not belong there. It's
At
obvious.
all.
Horrible pick. We're reading Lane Kiffin's tweets, and we're like, yeah,
That's
absolutely,
right.
we agree totally. You are right on, so right. And then we watched Tennessee, Ohio State, and we're like, oh,
Yeah,
what did Tennessee not belong there? What?
exactly.
How do you?
Yep.
how do you pick on Indiana and SMU after what Tennessee did?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, because Tennessee just took. I'm looking at the numbers just real quick, but that was the single biggest whipping in the first round.
yeah.
I mean, the SMU game was 4 scores, so technically that might have been, but still, you can't dispute that was the worst. I mean, you're talking about never being in any doubt. It was very, very quickly. It was not in
Hmm.
any doubt, truthfully.
Yeah. So Heupel's done great at Tennessee.
Hmm.
This is it's a painful lesson. It's a stepping stone. He'll right the ship.
Yeah.
They'll keep getting better. Nico will keep developing as a quarterback. But for this year, right now, they get the Naughty Award,
Yep.
which means let me switch my hat around here.
Well done. Well done.
I don't know if Buckeye Doug, Duckeye Bug.
If you ever write a children's book, there's your character, Duck Eye
Duck
Bug.
Eye Bug. I'm giving you get a nice present, Ohio State. A
Yeah.
national audience. You were the primetime
Yep.
game. You showed up. You looked, as we were talking before the show, Darren, you pointed out Ohio State looked faster. They looked stronger.
Yep.
And this game was never in doubt. So kudos to you, Ohio State.
Yep.
As much as I say that to my
Agree.
chagrin, to the victors belong the spoils.
Yep.
So your fans had every right to chant SEC.
Oof.
It was your moment, but I can't believe you let the SEC live rent free in your heads like that, though. But that's a whole nother
Yeah,
story.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's you got to give it to them. I mean, like you said, they look bigger, faster, stronger, and they took care of their business. Like we talked about last week with some of these teams that are, and even this week, some of these teams are whining about not getting in. The formula is pretty simple. Do we agree with all the picks of the committee? No, but in the words of Coach Yost in Remember the Titans, sometimes Herman, you got to leave no doubt. So, and that's what these teams failed to do. And then when Ohio State had their moment, that is absolutely what they did. They left no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you really look at it, I'm not sure there are 12 teams year in, year out that are good enough to compete for a national championship.
Right.
Now you could say, well, it's kind of like high school football. For you got the first round blowouts.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely not like college basketball where you're going to get a 16 seed upset of one seed. I just
Right.
college football
Absolutely.
is so different.
Yeah.
So I don't think expansion would hurt. I don't think it's
No.
going to help. But last year was kind of an outlier. What did we have? Like 6 teams that legitimately
Yep.
had a
Yep.
claim to we are a national championship contender.
Yeah.
There's definitely not 12 teams that can say that.
Mhm.
Tennessee was a very good team. I mean, congratulations for getting there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of SEC teams didn't make it, but
Yep.
Tennessee
That's
made
right.
it. Were they national championship caliber? I think that got exposed Saturday night.
Yeah.
No, not this year. They're not quite there yet.
And I tell you, I think the one thing think I think the one conversation you can have that is a legitimate conversation is to talk about seating. I think that is the thing that this kind of exposed a little bit. The entire first round, not just this Ohio State Tennessee team. I think there has to be a conversation going forward that says, let's take the top 4 teams, although that will be very argued about and disputed, even if that were to happen, regardless of conference championship, regardless of conference alignment, who we deem as 1 through 4, that's our top 4 teams. That's who gets the bye. You get an automatic in because you are your conference champion. Fine. It's the way we've done in basketball for years. I get it. I don't have a problem with that. But I think if we reseed in numbers 1 through 4, regardless of where they align or the champion or not champion or whatever, get that bye. I think maybe that gives us the possibility of having maybe a little bit more interesting games in week 1. Just a thought to throw. I think that's a much more legitimate conversation than, well, I see so and so shouldn't have been in, so and so. You're going to have that conversation every year, so that's not a real conversation. Knowing that this is our structure, talk about expansion, go to 16 teams. Sure, I don't think it's going to hurt. I agree with you, but also I think we need to talk about how we seed those 16 teams as well.
Yeah, and right along with seeding is the conversation of it shouldn't penalize you being a part of a big competitive conference. So
Absolutely,
how do
absolutely,
we deal with that? So, but I
absolutely.
think that what happened this year with Indiana, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't see that happening again.
Agree completely.
If you're gonna be playing these out of conference opponents like that, then I think it should be held against you.
Yeah, agree completely. I think it's a great point.
Um,
All right, while you've got your nice side of the list on, I'm going to go to a news event that I think is magnificently nice. Matter of fact, it might be the nicest of nicest things to ever be put on the nice list.
the
And
nicest all time,
yeah, of
all
all
time.
time. And I'm going to take my hat off because it doesn't have naughty and nice. And oh, look at that. There's some Vanderbilt underneath that. Andy, I think it was crushing my skull at some point.
I'm
So
shocked. What?
a Vanderbilt hat? So last week, you actually asked and said, "Hey, how do things look with the Diego case?" And I said, people inside Vanderbilt are saying, "Oh, it looks good," but what else are they going to say? I didn't think it was going to happen, and then the injunction came through or came down, basically putting him in a position to have a year of eligibility, and then we. As we've said before, we typically record on Monday, release on Tuesday. Hopefully. But we typically record on Monday, and today, as of time of recording, the NCAA handed down a decision that said anyone who this year was their final year of eligibility in any sport, and they spent time at a JUCO prior to coming to NCAA, and I think it actually says a non-NCAA institution, to just kind of blanket, then you are granted one more year of eligibility. For me personally, to have it not just be an injunction, but to know for sure, I think they got to keep him out of the transfer portal. Different conversation, but to know for sure that Diego has another year of eligibility, it's it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. I need nothing else. Thank you, Santa. Thank you, NCAA. I'm all in.
Diego is good for Vanderbilt,
Yeah.
for the program. Uh, Definitely created a lot of excitement. Will
Mm.
create excitement next year. I'm concerned though, Darren. He got beat up this year,
Yeah, I agree.
and my concern is if he throws his body around next year like he did this year,
Yep,
he's got to play a little smarter. I don't think
definitely.
he'll make it through next season if
I
if
agree.
he plays like he did this year.
Well, and hopefully having this will be his fourth year in their system, in the Jerry Kill Tim Beck system, and hopefully they can start to tweak a little bit to get to retrain him a little bit to use his feet to create passing lanes, not to use his feet always to seek a running lane that ends with him seeking, impact with a linebacker. He's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Draw him in and throw the ball over his head, please. Yeah. So hopefully there will be time for those things to be taught and sink in a little bit. Hopefully.
So we'll give the news about Diego. We'll put that on the nice list.
Yeah.
However, on the naughty list, I'm going to disagree with Steve Sarkeesian here, who did not like the Diego verdict,
Right.
but I'm putting the big bad NCAA on the naughty list.
Agree
They're
completely.
looking for ways in this new era to flex their muscles. They're running out of
Yep.
areas to do this in,
Yep.
and now it's on an appeal. They're gonna try to put a stop to all of this after this next season. Uh, you know, there's different sides to look at in this whole thing,
Hmm.
but uh, you know, I can kind of see when you play JUCO, that's different. That's different. You're trying to
Hmm.
get to that level. You're trying to get to that next stage, and
Right.
And I don't think you penalize guys who finally make it to that stage. So I'm putting you NCAA on the naughty list.
I agree completely because this is one of those things. It's already won't use that saying. It's already out of the can. I'll believe it. It's already out of the can because we've already got super seniors because of the whole COVID. That really kind of opened the door to this. Then you layer that an NIL on top of that, and I think even if you disagree with the decision, you have to at least see it as a valid argument that in the NIL era, I have 2 years of earning potential taken away from me because I played, at the JUCO level, and now I can't have those years back. And the other thing about that is, and I heard somebody make this point. I can't remember. Gosh, I was going to try to remember to give credit, but I can't, so I won't take credit for it. I'll at least do that. Make the point of the only thing that's new about this is we're adding the JUCO layer to it because it is not news that someone could go play baseball in a non-NCAA institution, like say the minor leagues, for 6 years, and then come back and have 4 years of eligibility to play quarterback. Hello, Chris Winkie. So this is it's not a new thing. It's just a new layer of something that's really honestly already been established. Now, I admit may have a little bit of a taint in how I look at it, but I think that's a valid and a reasonable part of the conversation. So I agree, definitely NCAA on the naughty list for again just trying to appeal and shut it down instead of saying, okay, here's the decision the court has made. How can we work within this and try to realistically and reasonably legislate it? That to me, that's the even bigger point with the NCAA.
That is argued better than any lawyer in any John Grisham novel, right there, my friend. If you're in an automobile accident, call Darren Shavers of the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast. One call. That's all. Oh, wait. I better not say that.
I'll
We'll
do
get in trouble.
Here's my commercial: me running through Mud Island like Tom Cruise and that.
While we're on the subject of nice and naughty, I have one more nice
Okay.
award to give, and that goes to the Texas Longhorns,
Oh yes,
who
absolutely.
took care of business
Yes,
against
they did.
Clemson. They looked good. They looked strong. I'm not sure anybody's going to keep this team out of the national championship game.
Yeah.
So good for you, Texas,
Yeah.
as you keep rolling.
As you elevated the SEC in the process of your playoff, I mean, they did what they needed to do. It was well done as well. They looked very, very strong.
All right. Well, let's make some picks for this week, Darren. Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. This is actually after the Texas Bowl. LSU and Baylor are playing in the
That's
Texas
right.
Bowl. That's not a playoff game, though.
But it's still gonna be a
Much to
good
my
game.
chagrin. So, sorry, I had a Jaden Daniels moment. I was thinking about how he won that game.
That's right.
Threw that touchdown pass with 6 seconds left to beat the Eagles this
And,
past week, and
and it was his 36th touchdown of the day. Is that right? Is it pretty close?
and I think to myself, how horrible was the LSU defense?
Oh,
How do you keep Jaden Daniels in that off? Never mind.
so
I
painful.
stopped.
So
All
painful.
right, I need to let go. All right, 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. The Penn State Nittany Lions and the Boise State Broncos face off in a second round game. This is actually at the Fiesta Bowl. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, Darren.
Here's the thing. Penn State looks better than I thought they would, truthfully. Now, I expected Penn State to win that game, so that wasn't surprising to me. But honestly, I felt like not that SMU was going to be that much better, but that, or going to be better than people were giving them credit for. But James Franklin teams have a tendency to kind of ratchet down a little bit when they shouldn't and play down to their competition. So if I'm a Penn State fan, this game concerns me because if Penn State does a Penn State thing, comes out flat, plays down to their perception of down to their competition, this team has a running back that can make you pay for it. So I think if I'm a Penn State fan, that gives me a little bit of pause, makes me a little concerned. Outside of that, I think the first round showed us some things about talent differential, and I think this is a Penn State win. How about you, Ben?
I agree with you. The Nittany Lions defense is pretty
Yeah,
stout. Uh, Ashton Jante is a great running back.
absolutely.
He may have a great game. I think Penn State's going to try to force Boise State to beat them in other ways. And I'm not sure the Boise State defense can stop Penn State's
I agree.
offense. So I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions winning this one. 12 p.m. high noon game Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day. The Peach Bowl, the
Yes.
Chick-fil-A. Is that the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl,
The
right?
Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
The Texas Longhorns face Coach Dillingham's Arizona State Sun Devils. What a surprise this
What
year.
a
A
yeah.
magical season.
Absolutely.
Will it continue, though, Darren?
I think Indiana showed us what happens to magical seasons in the playoffs. I think the same fate is waiting for the Sun Devils. I would be shocked if this is remotely close. I think there could be enough energy and enough push by a team that's had an extra week off to maybe make the first half interesting. But I think Texas is going to do what they need to do, and this is a Texas win. How about you, Ben?
I agree. Texas is stronger top to
Yeah,
bottom.
absolutely.
4 p.m. New Year's Day game. We have oh gosh, can you believe this is a second round game?
I
Ohio
know.
State and Oregon. Wow, when they played in the regular season, what a terrific game. Now we get to see it again.
Now we get to see it again.
I mean, this is almost national championship caliber game here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, who you picking here, Darren?
This one is actually pretty difficult. I think the edge goes to Oregon just a little bit because it is, even though it's not a home game, they're the home team and it's in Pasadena. That's a little bit of a shorter trip from Oregon to Pasadena than Columbus to Pasadena. They have the advantage of having that extra week off, but Ohio State looks so strong. I think this time 2 weeks ago, I would have said to you, even if Ohio State beats Tennessee, I think Oregon takes care of them. But I think I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think I'm going to ride the Buckeye train. I think I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a fun game, an entertaining game, maybe even a high scoring game. But I think the Buckeyes pull this one out. I'm doing it for you, Doug. It's just for you, man. All right. I think. How about you?
Their game in the regular season went down to the wire.
Mm-hmm.
Great game. You can't dismiss Dan Lanningham's Oregon Ducks. Dunks, the Ducks.
Dunks. I now want coffee and a donut, but go ahead.
Dylan Gabriel, great quarterback. Oregon is stacked.
Yep.
However, Ohio State, like you said, looks so strong. My only concern with Ohio State is that they don't get satisfied with the win over Tennessee.
Very true.
They don't say, hey, we met the SEC in our backyard and we handled them, dominated them. If they get stuck on that, fixated on what they did against Tennessee, Oregon's going to beat them. But I'm going to go with you, Darren. This is the second game we're agreeing on. I like this Buckeyes team, and I'm going out on a limb thinking that they are peaking right now.
Agree.
7:45 p.m. kickoff on Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Eve primetime game. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are facing the Georgia Bulldogs. They're coming to our state. They're coming to the Sugar Bowl, New Orleans.
Right.
A great venue, great atmosphere, great city, and it's going to be a great football game, at least on paper, Darren. Who do you like here?
Tennessee has made me afraid to say, well, duh, this is an SEC moment, but this is also Georgia. This is not the typical Georgia. I think we can all agree on that. That we've been used to or accustomed to seeing over the last 2 or 3 years. But this is still a very, very, very strong team. Um, yeah, I think this is a Georgia win. Notre Dame will have to prove me wrong. There's not a way I can come to a different conclusion on the front end. Notre Dame just absolutely has to prove me wrong. So I'm going with Georgia. How about you, Ben?
Georgia's starting quarterback Carson Beck is out for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Will that make a big difference? We're
Yep.
going to wait and see. But like you, I think Georgia, Kirby Smart has. You look at the time you've given Kirby Smart.
Yep.
Riley Leonard is going to have to play his best game of the season for the Irish to have a chance to beat this Bulldogs team.
Yep.
Now, on the other hand, Notre Dame's defense isn't too shabby. So I may get in trouble for saying this because last week I was talking to someone about the Tennessee-Ohio State game. And I said, two elite defenses, this will probably be a low-scoring game.
Yeah. Front row.
42 points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that's low scoring in the NBA. I don't know. But,
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
But I like the Bulldogs in this one as well.
All right, Ben, we have one more thing to talk about, and I warned you a couple of weeks ago that at some point this was coming. So it's time for us to face the teacher and get our grades. So we have two different sets of grades. The first set of grades is on how did we do picking the top 5 in the SEC. You remember very early, matter of fact, it may have even been, it was either the end of June or 1st of August. I can't remember exactly when, but I think it was very 1st of August. We did these are our top 5, way too early top 5 picks. So, Ben, do you remember who your number 1 was?
It's probably whoever finished number 1.
You, sir, are correct. You and I both picked Georgia as the number 1 team in the SEC. And there you go. So we did well on that one. Now, your grade is a 4 out of 5. So would that be an 80? So you're at a B, which is not bad. The only you didn't get them in the right order, but you called Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Alabama being 4 of the top 5. Do you know which team you said would be a part of the top 5 that you missed?
LSU.
That is correct. You did not get LSU. I, on the other hand, would give anything for your B because I only got 3 out of 5. I called Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. I agreed with you on LSU. That's on me. And I also wanted to step out and take a flyer. Boy, this one looks really bad. I really thought Missouri was going to have a step up and step out here and end up in the top 5. Oopsie on that one. So,
whoops.
Oops. You ended up with 4 out of 5, correct, regardless of order. You called 4 of the top 5, and I ended up with 3 out of 5. Now, when it comes to picking games, you and I could not have been much closer. We picked a total of 117 games this season. And you got 86 out of 117 right. So your record picking was 86-31. My record picking was 84-33. Basically, I missed 2 Vanderbilt games, and that threw everything off.
Sorry.
But when you do the math on that, and here let's give you the exact grade. You, sir, have a passing grade. Matter of fact, in college, let's go with college grades since we're calling college games. You have a C. It's not just a passing grade. That'll work. And I have to do this to get to my grade. It's a D. Those two games made a difference. But as scary as this is, it's a better grade than both of us had last year. So kudos to us for improving.
Like Nico, we're going to keep improving step by
That's
step.
exactly right. That's exactly right. This is basically like our red shirt junior year in doing this, right? Or our red shirt
Yep.
sophomore year. So we see we're still growing, just like Nico. Exactly. So
Wonderful. It could have been worse.
could have been much worse. There were a couple of weeks when I was looking back, it's like, whew, what were we thinking? But we did good most weeks. So
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. How did you do on your picks? Have you calculated those of
oh,
you that were picking throughout the year?
okay.
So we'd love to hear from you,
We would.
especially if you did better than us. We'd
Yep.
love, and maybe we can have you on the show and we can talk about it. So enjoy the football games coming up, but first, take time, Christmas,
Yes.
enjoy being around people that you love. Remember, episodes will come out. They're out there whenever you want to listen at your convenience. But when you do,
Hmm.
when you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that means a lot to us. Tell other people about the show. We will see you next year, not next year, next week.
No, next week.
Next week
We,
before
we
the
got
new
one
year.
more left. Yep, that's right.
We get to hang out one more time this year, and we look forward to it. Until
Yeah.
then, y'all take care.
Have a great week.